and chatting to Mr Tugendhat in just a second, but first some breaking news reaching us here at Sky Centre. Just telling you about that soldier, weren't we, that was stabbed multiple times in Gillingham on his way home. He was wearing uniform at the time. There has been a charge in connection with that. He is in a stable condition in hospital. The soldier, we're told that a 24-year-old man has been charged. Get more information on that, update you further. Tom Tugendhat with us. I'm sure you've got a word for the family of that soldier.
Yeah, well, look, I'm thinking of not only him but his family. This must be a very, very difficult time for them all. And, you know, as somebody who served our country to keep us safe, we need to be making sure that he's safe in his own home as well. And so I look forward to seeing the police investigation and to seeing what they bring forward, because this is an incredibly important incident. And my thoughts and prayers are very much with his family and, of course, with his comrades, who will be feeling particularly nervous at this moment. I
also want to ask you about what happened in Manchester at the airport last night when we saw a police officer who's now been removed from operational duties. We've seen the videos, kicking a man who was prone on the ground twice in the head.
Well, look, those are very worrying scenes, and you'll forgive me, I'm not going to prejudge any investigation. I know you wouldn't expect me to, but that clearly needs investigation. The suspension is clearly, removing from operational duties is clearly the right thing to do at the beginning.
Should he be suspended?
Well, I don't know at the moment. I'm afraid I can't answer that question. It's, you know, the Manchester Police are going to have to look into that, and it's absolutely right that they take the time to do that, because these are really serious accusations. The filming, frankly, I think, raises huge numbers of questions.
And Are you shocked by it? Have you seen it?
I've seen bits of it. I'm afraid I don't know how much of it I've seen, because, as you know, you can see partial imagery and not be absolutely certain you've seen everything. So, you know, I think what we've seen so far is worrying, and I think Greater Manchester Police have made the right decision, which is to pause that officer's duties and to conduct an investigation. They're doing the right thing.
You want to be a leader, the leader of the Conservative Party. What's your pitch?
Well, my pitch is very simple, which is that we have, as we've seen over the last few years, lost the trust of the British people because we failed to deliver. And we need to focus on delivering for the British people. And over the last few years, in fact, over the last 20 or so years, I've demonstrated that I'm able to deliver on operations in the military in Afghanistan and Iraq. I'm able to deliver standing up, as you very kindly interviewed me about, standing up to authoritarian dictators, whether in Russia or China or Iran, which, as you know, got me sanctioned, or whether it's as Security Minister here in the United Kingdom at Cabinet, making sure that we keep the British people safe. And that track record of delivery is absolutely essential to rebuilding trust, to make sure that we're in a position to offer the British people a real choice at the next election, and a choice between a Conservative government that's able to prioritise the interests of the British people and whatever it is that Labour decide to offer.
You didn't get as far as you would have hoped during the last leadership campaign. What's changed?
Well, what's changed is that we've seen quite literally, sadly, the track record of failure to deliver. You know, we've quite literally seen that erosion of trust written in the electoral outcome of the last general election. I mean, you don't need me to take you through it, Kay. I mean, you covered it, and everybody knows. We've had a disastrous election. Let's not kid ourselves. It went incredibly badly for the Conservative Party, and many people chose any party but us. And we need to rebuild that trust. We need to reach out, and we need to be absolutely focused on the Conservative values that I believe many people in this country share, but they didn't see us offering and they didn't see us delivering. And that's why I'm absolutely committed to the interests of the British people and making sure that what we do is we have a track record of delivery. And I think I've demonstrated that in the military, in Parliament, standing up to dictators, and, of course, as Security Minister in Cabinet, making sure that we deliver the security of the British people.
Reading that more under 30s are voting for, or did vote for Farage than the Conservatives, that's got to be worrying for you.
Of course it is, and more voted for the Green Party and more voted for the Labour Party as well. We need to make sure that we are reaching out to people across the United Kingdom, whoever they voted for. Now, what I've seen, and I'm sure many other people have seen the same, is that there's a lot of people who have conservative instincts. What they want is they want the ability to take their own actions, to be responsible for their own lives, to start their own businesses, to own their own homes. These are conservative instincts, but they're not seeing them reflected in the Conservative Party. And my job as leader of the Conservative Party is to make sure that those views are reflected in the Conservative Party, so that we are offering young people that opportunity to start their lives, their opportunity to start a business, to build a home and to build a family.
In the words of Suella Braverman, are you a centrist crank?
Look, I don't think this is those expressions are particularly useful. We can talk about left or right if you like, but that's really the real question is about the past and the future. And the future has got to be focusing on conservative values and on the values that, frankly, when they have aligned with, when the Conservative Party has demonstrated them and promoted them, they've aligned with the interests of the British people. And that's why the Conservative Party has governed the United Kingdom for so much of the last couple of hundred years. Because when we are aligned with the British people, we deliver. We absolutely deliver. And I'm afraid in recent years we have failed to deliver, and that's why we've just been voted out.
Has the splash, the lead story in the newspaper, The Telegraph, which you've written for this morning, has it been overwritten, or are you ready to leave the ECHR? Look,
I'm prepared to make any decision necessary to keep Britain safe. And we've seen in the last...
So is that a yes or a no?
Well, it's a simple answer, Kay. We've got to be prepared to look at all of these organisations, and if they serve the British interest, then we support them. And if they don't, then we either reform them or we derogate or we leave them. And I think you've got to be clear-eyed about this. I mean, I know you would never argue, but we should never be a part of any organisation that doesn't serve our interests. We should never be part of any alliance that doesn't promote the security and prosperity of the British people.
Do you think ECHR falls into that?
Well, I think there's many questions that we've got to ask, but this isn't a simple answer, I'm afraid. As you know, the ECHR is part of the Good Friday Agreement, it's part of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, and that's why we've got to be prepared. And
Human rights laws?
Absolutely, and we've got to be prepared, and preparation is what this is about. It's about looking rigorously at this. But we're 3 weeks into a 5-year term of opposition, I'm afraid. We've got time to look at all of this. We've got time to consider what needs to change, what we can derogate from, what we can reform, and if we can't, what we need to consider if we're planning to leave.
So you aren't ruling out leaving the ECHR?
I'm not ruling anything in or out, Kay, because, we're in opposition now. We've got to hold this government to account, and we've seen already in the King's...
Despite the ramifications of what might follow?
Well, we've got to make sure that the ramifications, if that is the decision, that the ramifications are considered in advance. Now, that's why preparation is absolutely essential. But it's also why we need to be really hard-eyed, really clear-eyed about what is in the interest of the British people. And I'm very, very clear that all institutions, all treaties must serve the interests of the British people. And, where they do, I'll support them. Where they don't, I know you wouldn't expect me to say otherwise, I won't.
The new head of the army has warned Britain must be ready for war within 3 years. Do you concur with that?
Look, I think Rowley Walker is an exceptional commander, and I had the great privilege of serving alongside him in various different operations at various points. And so I am very, very clear that we have to listen to what he's saying. Because what he's talking about is the failure to prepare that we have seen too often in the run-up to conflict. Now, we saw this when I was serving in Afghanistan, which is why, under the last Labour government, we didn't have enough helicopters at various points, we didn't have enough body armour, and at other points we didn't have enough Overwatch, that intelligence capability of seeing the enemy. Now what General Sir Rowley Walker is warning about is making sure that we have the capability to defend ourselves. And that's about rearmament, that's about making sure we have the weapon stocks. And that's why I've been really clear that although getting to 2.5% by 2030 is important, that has to be part of a process to making sure we have the right defence stocks. And it's why I'm really worried about what Labour have set out. They haven't put a timeline, they've undermined the MOD's ability to plan, and they're making it harder for defence industry to be ready to support our operational needs.
Do you have the numbers to secure a nomination?
I do.
OK. Who is the biggest threat to you?
Well, that's going to be a decision for
who do you think? Who are you watching most cautiously?
What's interesting about these competitions is that I'm up against a lot of good people. I'm up against people who are friends of mine, people who I've worked with, in partnership with, over many, many years. I can't answer the question, Kay. I'm afraid I don't know.
It's Kemi, isn't it?
Kemi's exceptional, James is brilliant, I'm a big fan of Rob's, he's been a friend for many, many years.
You've missed Mel Stride.
And Mel's there, and let's see who else
and everybody else that knows me.
There's going to be many other people, but these are friends of mine. These are good Conservatives, and they're offering a different perspective. I'm standing on my own record of delivery, on military operations, in Parliament standing up against authoritarian dictators, and, of course, in Cabinet keeping this country safe.
I'm sure we'll be chatting again before we know who the next leader is. For now, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks, Kay.